The God of High School is hot garbage, and with so many people saying that it isn't, especially those sponsored by Crunchyroll, I thought I should add my own opinions to the mix for what it's worth. The God of High School is an anime that fails on every level except for art and animation, and even then, it's riding a thin line. To put it simply, this anime is a fighting anime and really nothing else. In fact, it's so caught up in being a fighting anime that it takes a fat dookie on everything else that isn't fighting, which includes characters and plot. All except for Daewee, of course. You know, in my opinion, this kind of defeats the purpose of a fighting anime. Since there is no character development, there's no reason to care about these characters in the slightest. I call them characters, but they resemble more of an empty shell than anything else. Oh, but how could you not care about these characters? They're so quirky, funny, and original. You don't need things like character depth and development at all. All you need are likable characters. And how do you think you make likable characters? Personality? Absolutely not. Especially since whether someone likes a personality is highly subjective. Heck, I think I can name a few characters with unlikable personalities that are still highly empathized with. And even with all that said, I would say that these characters' personalities, especially Mori's, aren't particularly likable. Yeah, but go back to munchie on your crayons. Anyways, if you're the kind of person that likes to turn their brain off when watching anime and watch the pretty colors flash on screen, then this anime is for you. And this review is, well, not for you. But for everyone else, you might want to keep watching. Anyways, it's time to get into the review. And I'm sure it goes without saying that this video contains spoilers. Though I don't know how you could spoil this anime story when it goes out of its way to have little to no plot. The God of High School, unfortunately, isn't about God going to high school and establishing his rightful monarchy, but in fact, as stated before, is a heavily rushed fighting anime where the brilliant minds at Crunchyroll thought they could smash 110 chapters into 13 episodes with everything turning out just fine. Kinda like what they did with Berserk. Although this isn't just a fighting anime, there's a secret that lies beneath the facade of a transparent test of cum. I wonder what cum tastes like. And the trio of retards are about to discover what it really means to become the God of High School. Episode 1, like every first episode of a series, is the exposition episode. And in that sense, it does its job. It also does a pretty good job at being a hook episode. That is, if the characters weren't so bland and overused. The episode starts off with these two pricks talking about how they're going to expose this other guy for corruption and sex scandals. Then Mr. Mystery Man kills them both by smashing his hand on his table. So is he supposed to be like Mr. Badman or something? Oh wait, the opening! Oh, and by the way, this scene doesn't lead to anything significant. It's virtually just there to look cool. Which I realize is an excellent way to describe anything that happens in this show. Anyways, we are then introduced to our wacky protagonist, Mori Jin, who loves food, doesn't want anyone hurting his friends, and his only goal in life is to fight for the sake of getting stronger. Wait, why is footage of Dragon Ball playing? Anyways, moving on, we are then introduced to our first side character, Mira, whose only goal is to spread her father's old-ass sword style far and wide. And then we get introduced to Daewee Han, Solo, who is introduced in the most overdramatic and epic way possible. Like a good boy. We then find ourselves in the God of High School tournament, where the arena is flooded with logos of Webtoon and Crunchyroll, letting the viewer pirating this anime know who paid for it. We are then given some exposition on how they can heal people with nanobots. Sorry, I mean nano machines. We are then shown a well done choreographed fight scene of a free-for-all type battle. And it's at this point we find out that Aang wasn't the last airbender. After a while of meaningless fighting, we are then introduced to our first antagonist, the Kicking Man. Finally, we see an exciting fight between the Kicking Man and Mori. And you know what happens next? they cut to ED halfway through it. Because this is a fighting anime. And fighting animes cut away from the exciting scenes and only show the meaningless fights. Because that's what makes a good fighting anime, right? It's in this episode where we get introduced to Chariak. Or at least the concept of it. By the way, this scene has no actual effect on the story because later events that reference this interaction don't matter in the slightest. It's only after the pointless prologue scene and the repeated exposition about nanomachines.
Nanomachines, son. They harden in response to physical trauma.
That we get to see the conclusion to the fight between the Kicking Man and Mori. And wouldn't you believe it, in a fighting anime, where its praise lies in its excellent fights, the fight that actually holds some sort of tension is cut short for a crappy gag. Hilarious. It's at this point in the episode where we were fed some forced drama because our protagonist is an idiot. And I'm afraid to say it, but on first watch, this actually surprised me a little bit. I thought they were going to go with the typical anime trope where the protagonist does something that affects another character negatively, accidentally, to which the protagonist will go and fix his idiotic mistake, and the characters will go on to be the bestest of friends and forget all about it. But no, they actually try to incorporate a little bit of drama, albeit forced drama, but drama nonetheless, I thought. Come to find out 2 minutes later, that trope I commented on earlier came to fruition. Look, even Daewi came with a big light to help them. What a good friend, which is a statement that won't be contradicted later on in this series. Anyways, back to the tournament, where we pretty much speed around all the fights. They only showed the ending of the battle where the protagonist comes out victorious along with some other characters that ultimately don't matter to the plot, not counting for the short fights that get featured later on in the tournament, because those fights do not change the narrative in the slightest. Then we get the fight between the monk and the Kicking Man.
Hey buddy, I think you got the wrong door. The leather club's 2 blocks down.
Who later evolves into the Kicking and Punching Man. And it's at this point it gets revealed that the Kicking Man has some sort of forgiving fetish or something because he got molested by some god or whatever. I don't even know anymore. This anime is too shallow and stupid. It's at this point where Mori intervenes because he can't allow anyone to hurt his friends in a fighting tournament. This of course gets him in trouble because, obviously, you can't intervene in someone else's fight. And blah blah blah, something about Mira calling someone a busybody because she's a commie. And next episode! In the prologue, we are shown a stereotypical cult speaking vaguely about God or something.
約束の時は来た。我らの願いを果たすための鍵を見つけ出すのだ。すべては神のご意志のままに。神のご加護。神のご加護。
At the beginning of the main meat of the episode, we are told that the monk man is in critical condition and the Kicking Man is, well, crazy. After a quick discussion about what they're gonna do with Mori, they decide that they're gonna make him fight the chain smoker. But before that gets revealed, we are given a fight between Mira and a pro wrestler. Just to remind all of you that the tournament's name is the God of Highschool. It was already hard enough to believe that the Kicking Man was in high school, despite the fact that he looks 40. But now it's a pro wrestler. Like, okay man, whatever, sure, I guess it could happen. Logic, what even is logic? We don't need logic. Man, what outstanding direction in this fight scene. I could totally tell what just happened. I wish that I was nitpicking, but when your whole shtick is how good the fighting is and the fact that this kind of thing happens multiple times throughout the series, I wouldn't say that this is nitpicking. Sword style. Would it just be easier to say moonlight style? I mean, it takes less time than saying moonlight sword style, swordless, but I don't know. Yeah, you're the one who gets to call them out. You also gotta love the good old anime trope of saying what you're gonna do before you do it, because that's Totally something you do in real life and isn't pointless at all. Hey look, Mira won. Who would have thought? I sure couldn't have seen this outcome at all. Oh look, now they're gonna tell Mori that he's gonna fight the chain smoker. Wow. What an absolute child. The only thing harder to believe than this guy saving the world is someone empathizing with him. After that embarrassing confrontation, Mr. I want to seem like the bad guy as much as possible gives the retard some fruit for special little boys like him. And as it turns out, if he has more than 50 IQ, the fruit, well, will kill him or something like that. Kind of irresponsible for someone who we find out is supposed to be the good guy. I mean, what if he offers the fruit to his friends? Which he does, by the way. Luckily, they conveniently say, no thank you. We get a little character death with Daewoo, but little it is, and is more than the rest of the unholy trinity. Then we get a fight between Daewoo and Sumner with a bat, and of course, Daewoo wins. Next up, the chain smoker versus Mori. Now this was one of the few times I found myself letting out a little giggle when watching this piece of crap. Albeit, it sounded like, but a giggle it was. You know, I found it pretty clever and I wasn't expecting it. Holy crap, is that Death 13? Of course, a chain smoker gets punished for using his stand against Mori in the funny anime style. And by the end of this episode, Mori expresses how he wants to shove a banana up his rectum. Anyways, next episode. The prologue starts off to some milky exposition to which, given some not so suitable foreshadowing, and a quick gag that made me exhale that quickly gets ruined by our annoying protagonist. Good job, guys. I started off with an erection and a smile, and now I'm frowning and softer than Mori's character. And oh look, Mira found herself a Redditor. And cue the subpar OP. Anyways, we find out after the subpar OP that she eventually said yes, because he'll spread the Moonlight sword style far and wide, and that's her goal. I'm going to be skipping through most of the episode because I want to keep this video as short as possible. Also, it's boring and unimportant. And all you need to know is that Mori finds out about it and disapproves. After a bunch of fluff, we get to the wedding, which looks like it took a long time to plan. And it was shown that it took days or weeks to prepare at least. Do you really think a massive tournament is just going to halt its event because one of its contestants wants to drop out and get married? Really? Yeah, this seems totally reasonable. Anyways, Mori tries to gain entry into the wedding, but oh look, he gets stopped by some security guards that Mori could quickly get by because Mori is overpowered. And do not be fooled by this scene. There is no conflict here or challenge. The only reason why he didn't do so is because he can't use his taekwondo against the guards. And because Mori can only show discipline when it's convenient for the plot, which totally isn't lousy writing or ruin the experience. But you know what else is a plot convenience? The fact that Daewoo showed up to knock out all the guards. Despite the fact that when Mori asked for assistance from him, he simply stated it's Mira's life, insinuating that he wasn't going to help. Anyways, I interrupt the ceremony, and of course, the Redditor isn't gonna take this lying down, so Daewoo tries to hold him off while Mori tries to convince Mira to pull out. But when she tries to hit Mori, she hits her stepdad too, who goes on the tower to pull out too. We then have a moment that wants us to believe that it's more emotional than it actually is. So she pulls out! To which the Redditor goes absolutely mental, yeah? And then we find out he just wants to inherit the Moonlight sword style. And we see his stand. We assume there will be an epic fight because this is a fighting anime that's supposed to have outstanding fights. But wouldn't you know it, that doesn't happen! After some roses and sunshine, we find out that the Redditor stole the sword somehow. But Mira doesn't care because my dad's spirit live inside me. And weren't you had those freakouts over the sword like 2 episodes ago? I guess emotional attachments don't exist. Anyways, we find out that Daewoo's best friend isn't doing too well. And because of that, he's mad. And coincidentally, Mori slept in when they were going to have their big fight. Oh no! And he gets there just in time to see Daewoo beating the crap out of Mira, especially in the spot where she got cut. Because he's mad. Then we get some emotional piano music playing in the background. but for some reason, I still don't care. Also, couldn't the medics at the tournament just fix the wound before the battle? I mean, that seems like something they would do to make the fight fair and last longer. I mean, if they can heal a broken neck with ease, surely they can heal a wound that she kinda just brushed off, right? No? Okay. I can say, without a doubt, that this is the best episode in the series. Because, well, you know, it's actually good. And although that doesn't mean it's perfect, rather, in fact, it's quite far from it, it's still enough to throw in some recognitions as much as the criticisms in this episode. Anyways, enough with my long-winded explanations, and into the actual review of the episode. The prologue starts off with some flashbacks of Daewi's past, giving him a fair amount of character depth, which is miles more than the rest of the cast of the main characters in this anime. Another right decision that was made was putting a fair amount of the flashback scene in the prologue. Doing this means it won't interrupt the flow of the story in the episode. I congratulate you, God of High School, for once not interrupting the flow of the story in that episode or a fight, and throwing a crappy flashback. The one problem I have with the scene is that it's rushed, like the rest of this anime. It doesn't include the full sequence of the flashback, but I'll get into that later. Anyways, after a fight between Mori and some nobody, which took 30 seconds for Mori to win, we also then get a little fluff, and then we finally get into the fight between Mori and Daewi. The fight we've all been waiting for. And I gotta say, it's the best choreographed scene in this series. I mean, it only took them 4 whole episodes to earn some praise in its fights. It also took them 4 episodes to give us a fight that had some actual tension in it. Wow, such a milestone for a fighting anime. And even though we get a line from Daewi that contradicts many of his actions, it's still a good fight. Another thing that makes this fight even better than the rest is its lack of loud dubstep music in the background. Oh, and they interrupt the fight to show Mira finding out Daewi's motivation. Then Daewi gets informed of his friend's death, and we get another flashback sequence. Yay, I can't believe it. I just complimented this episode for not interrupting the flow of the story with a crappy flashback sequence, and they go ahead and do it anyways. Why? Why couldn't you just put it in the prologue from the start? I'll tell you why, because they only want us to care about that character when he's dead, which, once again, totally isn't bad writing at all. And back into the fight, which for some reason switches to a ink-splattered art style where you can barely tell what's going on, but who cares because it looks cool, right? And then back to some actual fighting, where Mori finishes the fight with a move that he pulled out of his rectum. I suppose it was the banana that he shoved up there that festered into a new move. Also, what poor aim. You hit more of the floor than your actual target. I can only hope that you don't piss like that. In the prologue, we see Mori's grandpa face off against some cultists. And if you're anything like me, you might be asking yourself, why should I care? Anyways, now onto the main part of the episode. We are told that the preliminaries are over, and we are now continuing to the national tournament. And for some reason, the national tournament will have their top 3 fighters from each preliminary fight together. What retard structures a tournament like this? The point of a tournament is to eliminate contestants until there is only one left. And that one left will be deemed the winner. And this isn't a tournament where the team wins and gets the prize. Only one person gets their wish granted. So there's no point for the other members to fight unless they all have a common wish. Oh boy, I wonder if all the other teams will conveniently have a common goal, especially considering that this was a last-minute change. Anyways, Mira wins her fight and becomes part of the top 3. Who would have guessed? I'm gonna have an aneurysm! Anyways, we then see the continuation of the fight between Mori's grandfather and the cultists. And holy crap, that's a big sword! Oh, hey guys, look, it's the Hollywood secret.
Here at Hollywood Studios, we've been conscious of what successful films have not only been made, but have stood the test of time. After many decades of research, we've realized that part of the process of making a successful film is having a good story. After many more years of research, we discovered that audiences respond better to action sequences if the characters in peril are ones we care about and want to survive. We then organized a series of experiments with focus groups, and over the next few years we were presented with some startling results. Each participant in the study was shown a large rock to act as the main character, and by the end of the test we took a large sledgehammer and smashed the rock into many pieces in front of them. The idea was to see if their reactions were any different depending on what was done to the rock before we introduced the expectation of death or loss. What we found is that people are more responsive to the loss of the rocks if we had given them stories, backgrounds, personality traits, you know, anything we could attach onto them to make them seem more human and less like a rock. Now, unfortunately, we ran into a bit of a problem. See, the time it took to develop and explain these traits to the test subjects proved to be tiresome for both the creators of these traits and the participants involved. Some even started asking questions about the rock, but we didn't want that. Fast forward 2 years later, and here at Hollywood Studios, we came up with the perfect solution. We found that we were able to get near identical results with our participants after presenting the rock under special conditions. After that point, the backstory wasn't even necessary in the slightest. Turns out, all we had to do was place a dainty, slimmer rock next to it with 1 or 2 pebbles by its side. The result was outstanding. And let me tell you, I sat in for one of these sessions and they brought the sledgehammer out after about like 30 seconds and they went hysterical. This one woman just started crying, she was, "Oh, please don't kill him, he's got a family." And then we smashed it. It was fantastic.
We then find out that the announcer guy is, well, blind. How is he blind? A question you probably don't have? Well, that's simple. The Moonlight Sword Style blinded him. But how does he do his job? The world may never know. And oh look, he's dead. Who could have seen that one coming? We're then shown some characters that will be important and yet not important at the same time. And after that, we're then shown what the first battle is gonna be and that the Chainsmoker got kidnapped. Anyways, next episode. Don't you dare question how I choose to structure this video. Don't. It makes perfect sense. Because 1 through 11 are episodes that still have the tournament in them. So don't even question me or the crappy structure of my videos ever again. Anyways, Mori finally loses a fight because he failed to use some sort of pressure point technique correctly, which is something that he learned last episode. I said don't! Nowadays we have to fight some old head that for some reason still is in high school because he's retarded, I guess. But before that happens, we get a quick update on the Chainsmoker's kidnapping. And then back to the fight with Daewee. And as soon as the retard starts losing his fight, we get his backstory. Which totally isn't a lazy way for the author to make the audience watching feel bad for him when he eventually loses. Not at all! Anyways, back to the Chainsmoker. And it's at this point, I can't even tell what is going on. It's just that bad. And then back to the tournament again, where we see Mira win. And then back to the Chainsmoker. And then back to our main character so we can get reminded how annoying Mori is. And then we get some exposition. And then we get to see our final antagonist and just how evil he is. He's just a crappy, stereotypical type of character. He's just evil to be evil. Anyways, next episode. In this episode, pretty much for half the episode, we see a poorly directed fight that we really have no reason to care about. Matter of fact, it might as well have been skipped over. We're then told that Mori's grandpa was taken by the cultists. Then we get a fight between Mori and bad haircut guy. And then we get a flashback for bad haircut guy. Then the bad guy shows up for some reason and then leaves for some reason. And then we were fed some absolute BS on how the announcer guy's family is still alive. Not that I or anyone with half a brain cell cared if they survived or not. And now I'm just gonna skip to the part that actually matters in this episode. Oh hey look, Mori found out that his grandpa got kidnapped by those naughty cultists. Next episode. And Mori is off to go save his grandpa or whatever. But oh wait, it's almost time for his team to find the tournament. And Daewoo got suspended. So that means both him and Mira have to win their battles. Which causes so much tension. And oh look, Mori arrived at the place where they supposedly have his grandfather captured. And it's at this point, everyone in the audience with more than 2 brain cells realize that this is a trap. Because gosh knows, Mori doesn't have even that. Anyways, back to the tournament, where the guy Mira was facing pulls out her stolen sword and unlocks its true power. And oh look, Mori finds out that he's in a trap. And because Mori is literally God, he survived that point blank explosion. And then we find out that this guy and his doppelganger power replaced the entire team that Mori and Mira were supposed to fight against. What a twist that no one gives a flying crap about. Then Mori numbs himself with his pressure point technique. It's at this point I asked the screen if his makeshift acupuncture can make his strength multiply. Why couldn't he have just healed himself instead of numbing himself so he wouldn't feel all of his bones breaking in the fight? And oh look, Mira gets her stand, Chariok. Wait, the doppelgangers can use the stand at the people that they're cloning use? I'm pretty sure that makes this guy the most powerful antagonist in the series, since he can use the stand of the people he clones, and they can still fight even though their puppeteer is out cold. Wow, that makes perfect sense, and isn't completely broken at all. Next episode. In the prologue, we get another flashback for another character. And in this poorly written flashback, we see bad haircut guy and his friend or whatever, I don't care at this point. I'm not putting in the effort to keep track of all these characters and their crappy relationships with each other. Anyways, she gets into a fight and then gets completely rolled by evil shark dude. And when the fight is over, and she is just sitting there on the ground, clearly injured, the ref not only didn't call for medical staff, but he also didn't stop the guy from going over and completely breaking her leg. This isn't some sort of street fight. This is clearly an organized tournament that, well, probably doesn't want a lawsuit on their hands. Also, why didn't this guy get arrested or detained for assault, or more specifically, an intentional tort? I mean, later on in the flashback, we see bad haircut guy get in trouble with the law because of that sort of thing. I mean, gosh dang it. Whoever wrote this garbage is absolutely incompetent. Anyways, we're back onto the tournament because that's what this anime is all about. For the first fight, we get a fight between Daewoo and... Is the fight any good this time around? Surprisingly, it's pretty decent. That is until the fight gets interrupted with a flashback, giving us exposition that could have been given to us before the fight even started. And then Daewoo manifests a stand. Lol, gets snapped. Now this is where things get interesting. Which magical symbol is gonna win? Omega or the Iron Cross? Oh, and now back to something less interesting. Mori versus bad haircut guy. Oh, I wonder who will win. What? Close combat? That's all you guys ever do! You might as well have just said he's bad at fighting in general. I don't see Mori pulling out guns and whatnot. And And he hardly even uses his dragon kick or whatever he calls it. I mean, the second criticism that bad haircut guy gives makes way more sense. Why couldn't you just said that instead for the first one? Oh, but no, he's just bad at close combat. Even his third makes more sense too. Not that we ever really see Mori's technique put too much strain on him, but you know, whatever, right? And now back to an actually interesting fight with some cool visuals. Not only that, but here we can see some actual good use of CGI. Since CGI looks out of place in the world that it usually takes place in, this looks perfect for the effect that they were trying to go for. And then back to the uninteresting fight again. Oh, and then they literally kill God with drumming, machine guns, and a bite from this mask that this guy had in his pocket. And then bad haircut dude goes Naruto. Next episode. Episode 11 starts off with exposition about bad haircut guy's stand. It's supposed to be some sort of big deal, but I'm gonna keep it real with you, Chief. I don't believe it is. And oh look, he can teleport. And once again, the fight isn't anything to come over like most of the fights in this series. And wouldn't you believe it, for some reason, just at the right time, Mori doesn't just inherit the Chariok, but he becomes a god himself. Man, so much for good direction. Anyways, Mori goes to visit bad haircut guy in the infirmary, where he then proceeds to give bad haircut guy some mean head. And then there's a fight between evil shark dude and Thor. Once again, should you care? No. And oh look, the series wants us to believe that there might be something at stake here because some side characters lost some limbs. But just like in Dragon Ball, loss is merely an illusion. Anyways, next episode. Thank goodness that this is almost over. The prologue, you know what? I don't even know anymore. I'm just gonna skip it. Anyways, they apparently didn't kill God in spite of what we saw a few episodes ago. And oh look, we're getting into the backstory of the evil shark dude. And even after all that, his reasons for being the way that he is still makes literally no sense. Anyways, we get some very disorganized fights, but who am I to complain about being disorganized? Anyways, the US decides to nuke them. You know, I'm starting to notice a bit of a trend here when it comes to America and anime. I guess they're just still a little salty when it comes to the real nukes. Although, like most things that happen in this anime, the nukes ultimately just don't matter because we have a cool old man. Wow, I've never heard of waterbending having magic healing abilities before. And there's like a key and they can't let like the shark dude take hold of it. By the way, this is an actual scene in the anime. I didn't edit the subtitles here. Anyways, Shark Guy and Mori fight for a bit, and the old man kills God. Again. This spontaneously teleported Mori and his friends along with the Shark Guy to that same spot. Shark Guy gets the key and becomes a god. Then a shark dude decides that he's gonna kill everyone because he's and because the writer doesn't know how to write a real villain. Killing everyone because they're losers doesn't make a lick of sense as a desire for a villain. Now, turning everyone into your slaves makes sense because you'd gain something from that. You don't gain anything from killing everyone, which is why it doesn't make any sense. Anyways, next episode. God. Anyways, they fight with Shark Dude for a bit, and then Daewoo gets stabbed in the back, but does it matter? Nope. Anyways, this causes Mori to turn into his god form, hence the name God. Anyways, defeat the evil shark dude after he goes beast mode. Then you get an ending where you can smell the roses and feel the sunshine, where Mori heals his friend's limbs, and then the unholy trinity split and go their separate ways. That was pretty short, but that's mostly due to the fact that most of the episode was, fighting. Anyways, on to the conclusion. Looking at the page count, I am now sitting at 54 pages. I'm now starting to realize I might have gone a little overboard. It took me a while to make this video because I really did not want to watch The God of High School again. But I did it anyways. If you're wondering why I'd go through the trouble of watching something that I hate just to make a video criticizing it, for one, I want to branch out with my content, and two, it's not much different from what I'd go through to make any other of my videos. Except, this one actually has animation in it. Got him. Anyways, the God of High School anime sucks, and using the slightest bit of logic makes the anime come tumbling down. I would call the God of High School the worst anime of 2020, but there is Gibiate. Anyways, I'd rate the God of High School a 2 out of 10, and if you want an anime that has a lot of thought and passion put into it, that involves a tournament, and is entertaining, then I'd suggest that you watch Ping Pong. No, seriously, it's at least 100 times better than the God of High School. Anyways, I made this video just to spite Crunchyroll, or I guess it's Funimation now. Gosh, I've been working on this video for too long. I'm probably gonna make a video on another YouTuber now. Or not. We'll see in about a month or so. Anyways, I'm SteveDender, and I'll see you later, virgins.